Hi guys, my name is Shane Willits. I'm an RBT and an assistant behavior analyst at UTBS. For the majority of people that will be listening to this presentation, you already know that, and I work with you, so hi. So today we're talking about ethics. The primary reason why I wanted to do this presentation was because I feel very passionately that our kiddos and our clients need to be our number one priority, and that they need to be treated well. They need it to be taken care of. They need to have effective and efficient experience in ABA as they are learning and working so hard and gaining access to reinforcement and achieving meaningful outcomes. And a lot of what I'm learning in my degree is directly related to a behavior analyst's position, things such as the compliance code, which is basically an ethics code that the BACB has given out to behavior analysts. But recently I've been thinking about the importance of an RBT and the weight and the importance of their job. Because yes, a behavior analyst will create these programs and they're going to do their best to use the ABA technology and tools to help these kids progress and gain their goals and become independent and just progress in general. But you, as the RBT, you are the one implementing it. You are the one that is spending 3 hours 2 or 3 times a week with the kid. You are directly impacting these kids' lives. And recently, we've been hiring a lot of younger people, I guess, and not that that's a bad thing, but I feel like there are a lot of people that come in because this is just a job to them, right? This might be just like a summer gig. This might just be like a way to make some money on the side, and that's great. But one as an RBT and as a behavior analyst, I can tell when people are coming in and they want what's best for my kids and they want what's best for the clients that they're working for, versus somebody that's going to come in, do the basics of their job. They're going to provide a couple SDs. They're going to run a couple trials. They're going to reinforce their kid, right? But I want to see you laughing and enjoying your time being with your kid. And I want your kid to see you as an SD, or I want them to see you and know that they can go to you to feel happier and to get reinforcement and to work for prizes. And you should be somebody that makes them happy, that sparks joy in their life, rather than somebody that they want to run from immediately, right? Ethics is a big part of that. Remembering that you are not there for you, you are not there for the behavior analyst, you are not there for the teachers, you are not there for the family. Okay, you are. But your primary objective is to take care of these kids and to remember that their growth and the trajectory of their progression is heavily on you as the RBT. And the only reason I'm saying that is to emphasize how much power you have and to emphasize how important your job is and to make you feel significant. I don't want you to come in and feel like, oh, I'm just an RBT. I'm not making a lot of money. Because it's, even though maybe we're not making a lot of money, you are here to make a difference. I love my job as an RBT. I love being able to supervise and program. That's cool too. But nothing reinforces me or makes me happier or keeps me wanting to come back to work every day than the work that I do as an RBT. And I hope that we can get that across in this little ethics training, as well as go over some basics of how we should be responding in various situations. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. So like I said, the BACB has put out like a list of codes or ethics, important parts of our job that need to be done correctly and how to do them ethically, so that we are protecting our kids, okay? It is called the Professional and Ethical Compliance Code for Behavior Analysts. In this presentation, I'm going to be attributing it to RBTs. So even though it was created for the clinician and the supervisor, I have pulled out a few points that I think are vital for your job as well, which is the point of this whole thing. Because behavior analysts will get classes and trainings on this, but you probably won't, so. Sorry, that may have been dumb, but I don't care because I loved it. So just to reiterate really fast, this information has been created for the behavior analyst position, basically, and it is a code that we have to abide by, or we can get in mega trouble with the BACB, okay? Because they want to make sure that our clients are taken care of, and I love that. But like I said, there are various codes within the compliance code that I think are vital for an RBT, and that if I do see somebody not adhering to it, it will be corrected, right? So I might as well give you some priming, give you an opportunity to learn the codes before maybe some corrective feedback is applied to the situation. So a couple questions asked. Are you, as an RBT, responding ethically? If you don't know, we'll talk about it. If you don't know after we talk about it, talk to a clinician. And then can you identify if a clinician or supervisor is responding ethically? So this also gives us an opportunity to kind of look at the codes. And then you as an RBT, if you're seeing me or another clinician acting unethically, I want you to be able to recognize that as unethical behavior and then be able to maybe go talk to a clinical director about it. In our case, it would be Debbie or Chelsea. So first of all, the code starts off with integrity. So in our case as an RBT, we are always honest. We are always truthful. For me, this goes back to our data collection, right? We're not just going to hit independent a million times to make our data look extra good, to make us look good. We're also going to be really honest and truthful in our progress notes. So making sure that we're putting accurate data within our notes, that we are describing situations or circumstances that take place truthfully and honestly. Also, if somebody asks you a question about the way that you're running something, or did you do this, did you do that, we need to be honest and truthful. And the primary objective behind that is to make sure that our clients are, yes, safe and protected from harm, but also in regards to data and progress notes, if we can't have honest and truthful data collection and feedback for how these sessions are going, then it prevents the clinician from being able to effectively make changes to the programs, right? We need to know for sure if they need help or not. And then maybe we're hitting, for some reason, incorrect every single time. Then we are being dishonest in a way that's going to prevent our kid from progressing, because we're not going to take out a program that isn't hitting mastery level. So, and then back to our clinicians, you know, if you're being asked to do something illegal, fraudulent, or unethical, this is when you should feel comfortable and confident in being able to go to talk to someone, maybe a higher up, so that we can continue to promote an ethical environment. Relationships are really important. I know that we've heard about this several times in regards to how we should react, where our boundaries lie with families. It becomes really hard because we go into these families' homes for 3 hours, maybe multiple times a week, and we spend a lot of time with them, and they trust us and they're seeing us, and we're building rapport with them, because that's super important that the parents of our clients feel comfortable around us and trust us. But it might get to a point where I really like this kid's mom. I want to hang out with her more because she's super cool. I want to add her on Facebook, and I want to go to her Christmas party, you know, and we want to develop these relationships because that's naturally what happens when we spend lots of time together and we're building trust with each other. However, the ethics book, our compliance code does prohibit that. As long as we are RBTs, acting as an RBT for a family, specifically a client, we are not allowed to have relationships outside of that. Can we be friends within a session? Sure. Actually, yes, we want that. We want not just the kid to know that we are a source of reinforcement, but we also want our parents to know that we're a source of reinforcement, that we are coming in and we are helping improve the family environment. That's awesome, right? But when it becomes, can we hang out with this family outside of services? Can I offer babysitting? Can I offer cleaning services? Can I, et cetera, that's where we need to kind of draw our line, right? And we need to make sure that our relationship is remaining within the client RBT description. I can tell you from personal experience that this has happened to me where I'm going in for home sessions and I'm feeling really close to this parent. I've been working with this kiddo for a couple of years and we've developed a really good relationship. And all of a sudden, you know, maybe mom is talking about, it's really hard because I can't ever go on a date with my husband because I don't trust anybody to watch my kid, because she could injure herself. She could injure a sibling, right? And if you don't have somebody with the proper training, like maybe an RBT, then you don't feel comfortable leaving your kid with just a normal babysitter, right? And then in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I could babysit. Totally. Like, I'm trained. I know this girl so well. I know her behaviors very well. I know when they're going to happen. I know how to prevent them. And in my head, because I want to be this friend, I want to offer these services. And then the compliance code comes back and reminds me and says, as much as we want to help, because that's what human beings do, we help each other, it's not professional and it's not appropriate, nor is it ethical, specifically in this situation. Our next point with regards with relationships is respecting differences. We are going into homes that are very different than maybe the homes that we grew up in regard, we're meeting new people, we're interacting with new people. We are all so different. Age, gender, race, politics, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, language, socioeconomic statuses, etc. We're all very, very different. We need to make sure that we are being very respectful of that. That means, for example, if we have a client that doesn't celebrate Christmas, he celebrates Hanukkah, and I need to be respectful of that as an RBT. And remember, I can't shove Santa Claus in everybody's face, especially if this kid does not like or want to celebrate Santa Claus, because it's not his religion, it's not part of his culture, right? And I need to respect that. Right along with that, we're not harassing or demeaning people. This goes for clients, this also goes for coworkers. I think that our company does a really good job at saying no to drama and saying no to any form of harassment. If for some reason there is a conflict that comes up where maybe there is a coworker harassing you or making you feel inferior, making you feel crappy, it is within your rights to go and talk to somebody about it. Because the culture that we want at UTBS specifically, at our company, is one of acceptance, respect, family, strengthening, and we need it to be ethical. Last point is, if you, for some reason in your life, are experiencing, going through things that you think will decrease your effectiveness in treatment, you need to let a supervisor know, because if I can't provide RBT services to the best of my abilities, then I am preventing my kiddo from progressing, right? I am making it so it's going to be harder for him to progress and reach those meaningful outcomes and those overall treatment goals. This actually just happened to me. We all know that I am 9 months pregnant. I literally could have a child any day now. That being said, when I'm as an RBT, I'm up and down with the kids. I'm playing with the kids. We are going up and down the stairs at the center. We are playing, we're chasing, we're rolling around on the floor. And I've noticed that that's been getting harder and harder and harder on me. And then by the time my 9-hour day is up, or maybe I'm in my last session of the day, I am beat and my joints are beat. And I'm realizing that this whole pregnancy thing is affecting my ability to give those last kiddos everything I've got, right? So what have I done? To be ethical, I have contacted our scheduler and I've said, I think I need to come back on a few hours. I think I need to start working 2 or 3 sessions less a week, just so that I'm able to give everything to the kiddos that I do have. That's how we're gonna address that ethically. Maybe for you, it's not pregnancy. I know that I go through moments of anxiety where I can't even get out of bed in the morning. Talk to your supervisors about that. Talk to the clinical director about that. Make sure that they know, to a professional extent, kind of what's going on in your life, so that they know whether to keep giving you more clients, maybe you to back up a little bit, how can we support you, etc. And again, it just all goes back to, how are we going to help the client? Right along these regards of relationships, we're avoiding multiple relationships. So this means that a multiple relationship would be, I'm an RBT for this client, but I'm also their babysitter. Or maybe I'm an RBT for this client and I start dating the dad of the client. That would be a multiple relationship. Family. We know that we have a couple of RBTs working at our center who are cousins with a couple of our clients. And the way that we remain ethical is we do not put those RBTs with those clients. So RBT is a cousin with this client, they will never work together. because that's unethical, and that creates a multiple relationship, which our compliance code prohibits. So just making sure that you are an RBT, and that's it. For this family, that's what you are. You are their technician. You are coming in to help their kid. This also kind of goes with gifts, gift giving. The compliance code says do not accept any gifts. But if we're to go back to respecting differences and do not discriminate, there are some cultures that would be extremely offended if for some reason you didn't take home a plate of cookies that they made you for Christmas. I know around Christmas time, lots of families will get us tiny little goodies, lots of treats and cookies, and they'll just make us a plate and send us home, right? I think that personally, and maybe it's something you should talk to your clinician about, I think that saying no to something as simple as that would hurt the relationship more than it would help. So most gifts say no, right? I'm not going to ever accept money from a client. I'm never going to accept swig or gifts or bigger items. But if a family wants to send me home with a couple Christmas cookies around the holidays, I am going to take it home and I'm going to eat it on the way home, probably in the car, because it's respectful and it's kind. But again, if you think that this could create issues, I want you to talk to the clinician. I want you to talk to your clinical director, because maybe it just depends on the family. Maybe it depends on the client. And our overall goal is to make sure that we're avoiding these multiple relationships and these conflicts of interest. Cool. Because it's very much within our culture to exchange tiny gifts for Christmas, right? Especially in the state of Utah. So being respectful of where people are coming from and the way that they might be feeling in a situation is also important within the ethics code. So we're going to avoid exploitative relationships. So just really quick, to exploit means to derive benefit from. So for example, a very broad and very unrealistic situation at our clinic would be maybe trading services, like ABA services, for some kind of benefit. Maybe I work for maybe my client's dad is a Bath and Body Works manager. Maybe, I don't know. So maybe, am I trading services for Bath and Body Works gift cards? That's not okay, right? That's a super random example, but a lot of the examples they give in the compliance code have to do with sexual relationships, because we know that that can lead to taking advantage of a relationship. For example, if our clinical director or somebody higher up was a man, and I would enter into a relationship with this man solely so that maybe I could get my supervision hours, maybe I could get more clients, right? And I am exploiting that relationship I'm taking advantage of that relationship. I'm getting benefit simply because of the circumstances that I'm in. Yeah, and then it kind of also just goes back to those multiple relationships. For example, an RBT with a supervisor could not work because, one, it's a multiple relationship, and two, maybe that supervisor is going to start giving you special treatment because of your relationship, right? And we need to avoid that as much as possible. So in regards to relationships, whether it's a friendly one with a client's parent or a client themselves, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it is a relationship that could spark professional goals in the future, maybe outside the clinic, we need to avoid those kind of relationships for at least 2 years after the RBT client's relationship has ended. So for example, if I quit this job, or let's say this client ends services today. So today is November 27th. So 2020, right? So that means that November 27th, 2022, I could totally go back and be a babysitter for this person, right? I could totally go back and be this client's best friend and hang out with them whenever I want. But it needs to be about 2 years before that relationship can be had or developed. Let's go ahead and move on to rights and prerogatives of the client. As I've been emphasizing this entire time, and what I love about this code, what I love about my job, is that it is all about the client. I need to put whatever my desires are to the side. I need to put everything to the side and just remember that my what it says right here, legal rights and prerogatives are paramount for our clients. So taking care of them first in regards to really anything, but specifically here, their rights, has to be the most important thing that's always on our mind when we are providing treatment, or in your case, implementing things, right? So, like I said, prerogative is a right or privilege exclusive to a particular individual, in our case, the client. So this includes things like consent. So for example, if for one of these trainings I wanted to record a session or an interaction between me and a client, I would first have to gain written consent, ideally from the parent or guardian of that individual, then just to record it. Then I would also have to gain separate consent for every time that I wanted to use that clip. So I would have to gain permission to use it in like an ethics training, one. If I wanted to use that clip again for a behavior change procedures training, I would have to get individual consent from the parent or guardian or the client themselves for that separate training. So consent for the original recording of the session, and then consent for every single use of whatever recording or picture that is being used for. And then another point that the code brings up under rights and prerogatives is that we all need to comply with any requirements for a criminal background check, which we have separate colored lanyards at our company. We use yellow lanyards to indicate that our criminal background checks have not quite been come back yet, or have been approved or cleared. And then once all of those requirements for the criminal background checks all those boxes have been checked, we switch to the RBT red lanyard. So that one shouldn't be too hard to comply with in our situation. Nope. Okay, we've talked about this many times before, and it kind of goes back to gaining consent. We're maintaining confidentiality. That means that no matter how cute a session was, or no matter what funny stories happen at work, which happens all the time, it's not something I can come home and tell my husband. I can't say, oh, I have this kid, Billy Bob Joe, who threw up all over an RBT and it was hilarious, because that's giving away his identity, and that's giving away very personal information about the client to my husband, who has zero affiliation with our company or the kiddo himself. So it says here that we need to take every single precaution to protect confidentiality confidentiality of clients, but also our coworkers. And I thought that was interesting, that it specifically emphasized coworkers, because it's not something that we typically think about. But I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? If I'm having a hard day and maybe something happens at work and it's obviously very noticeable to all of my coworkers, I wouldn't love, actually I would really hate, and I would probably feel embarrassed if you took that information and you started sharing it with your family, or you started sharing it with your friends or our friends, or you started sharing it with clients and their parents. That would be really embarrassing for me. And I assume it might be embarrassing if the roles were reversed. So I loved that. I love that we are going to not only protect our clients, but we're going to protect our peers and our coworkers as well. That being said, if we have questions about an individual or a kiddo, talk to your team members, maybe other RBTs that work with this kid. Talk to that clinician, talk to the parents. I mean, we give parents updates all the time. We did this in our session. He responded this way. He did really well. He's starting to trace dotted lines. He's starting to write his own name, things like that. Those are all perfectly wonderful updates to give to the people that need to know. The need to know people would be a parent, a guardian, the supervisor, right? There's not really any reason to be telling anybody else, because they're not the ones programming, and they're not the ones that are legally in charge of the client, right? It warns against social media, but I went ahead and added no social media, period, for our kids. Meaning, we have so many cute opportunities with our kids. Our kids are some of the cutest, funniest, quirkiest kids on the planet. And sometimes they make silly faces, and sometimes they're reading for the first time, and it's super exciting. And we want to pull out our phones immediately, and we want to take pictures, and we want to record them reading for the first time, or maybe they're talking for the first time, right? I know for me, I love my job. Like, I love it. Like, I get a high, and it makes me so happy, and I'm so proud of what I do, and I want to post it all over my social media. But that is not ethical, and it's not me protecting confidentiality, right? Okay, well, what if I block out the face? Okay, if I blocked out my face, you would still probably know it's me. Why? Because I have this hair, I have this voice, I look like this, right? I'm 9 months pregnant. So even if my face is blocked out, you probably would know who it was right away. So, you know, even if we're blurring faces, blocking faces, it's still giving away pieces of that client's identity. So I just go ahead and say no social media posting about any of our clients, period. Cool? This one I did star. So this one kind of goes back to my whole idea that we are here for our kids. And especially your clinicians. Your clinicians do not get paid a whole ton at all, but we entered this field because we want to make a change in kids' lives. We want to improve these lives. We want to make a true difference. I hope you do too. But for us clinicians who are going through schooling after schooling and taking class after class, taking test after test, we're not doing it for the money. Let me tell you, not for the money, but we're really doing it because we love it so much. And it goes back to that idea that, for example, when I first started, I came in just as an RBT, and I kind of realized, like, okay, well, it's an entry-level job. You can do it with a high school diploma. How important can I be? I'm just a technician, yada, yada, yada. What I've learned in a lot of my experience is that you are the foundation of what we're doing at UTBS. You are everything. Without you, we have nothing. Yes, the clinicians are creating programs and, you know, watching the data and doing all the technical kind of boring stuff, but you get to be on your hands and knees every day implementing it, and you are actually the one changing these kids' lives, right? You are providing the reinforcers that are going to increase awesome, cool behaviors. You are the one that's training and teaching and chaining and shaping. You are the ones doing that, not the clinicians. The clinicians might say to do that, might tell you to do that, or we're going to shape this behavior, we're going to chain this behavior, we're going to start these task analyses on hand washing, right? We might tell you to do that, but the RBTs are the ones that are actually doing the implementing and that are actually changing behavior. This is so important, and the reason behind this entire project, because I want you to recognize how important it is. So the code, the compliance code, talks about treatment and intervention efficacy. As a behavior analyst, that's kind of talking about going back to the data, using ABA tools, using all of these data-based or evidence-based research to create programs or to tell you what to do, basically. Like, and so that's important to know, is that we're not just telling you what to do just to like say we supervise for an hour and move on, but we're doing it because we want with you to change these kids' lives. We want treatment to be efficient and effective to make these kids' lives better. So when you're receiving feedback from a clinician, or maybe some coaching or modeling or whatever it is, please take the counsel, okay? Because this is what's going to promote efficacy in our work, right? I want you to recognize the weight and the responsibility and the importance of your job. If that freaks you out, I'm sorry. I didn't really mean for it to be like a negative kind of weight, but I wanted it to be more like a Superman kind of weight, where like, I can do this. I am changing lives. I am awesome. I am making this kid's life better every second that I'm with him, every single day. And it's awesome, right? So when your clinician says, take data this way, take data this way, errorless teaching, give that kid a verbal prompt every single time. You need to do that, so that together we can ethically treat and intervene effectively and efficiently. Cool. And then just like this little last point from the code, as well as from me, it is our responsibility ethically to give our kids the best every day. And in order to do that, we've got to take feedback like a champ. We've got to take our errors as learning opportunities to progress for ourselves as an RBT, so that we can help the other kid, the kid and the recipient of our services, so we can help them progress. So this one I put in, so in the compliance code, it's mainly directed towards behavior analysts, because we're the ones creating the programs, right? We're the ones saying, deliver this kind of prompt at this time, maybe hand over hand in this situation. We're the ones saying whether or not we use punishment or reinforcement, and how much reinforcement are we using, and how much are we having to manipulate the environment, how much, etc., all the boring stuff. So it was primarily written for behavior analysts for that purpose, so that we are making sure that we are starting with the least restrictive procedures first, and making sure that, and using those first, and if they're failing, then we can kind of become more restrictive, right? In order to help our kiddo. I put it in here for the RBT training specifically because I started thinking about our more aggressive clients, and in the past, it hasn't been recent at all, and even in other centers, I'm seeing I'm seeing a kid demonstrate slight aggression or maybe a threat, a verbal threat of aggression, and people are automatically restraining them. I feel very uncomfortable about things like that. I would hope that you would feel very uncomfortable with things like that. One, because it's unnecessary. When we do our trainings, our safety care trainings, in order to learn how to restrain, we spend the first couple of hours learning about all of these tools that we can use to be able to de-escalate behavior or to manipulate behavior or kind of get this kid shifted maybe a little bit so that we can avoid using physical restraints. So that's kind of just what I've added right here, is that as an RBT, it is your ethical requirement to use every single tool that you've learned before we start engaging in physical restraints, right? So safety care training, weight procedures, weight meaning, why am I talking, right? So can we wait them out? Can we remove some dangerous objects in the environment? Can we remove the other clients and make sure that they're safe? Can we talk? Can I change this kid's mind? Can I say, instead of talking about the task that's maybe evoking the aggressive behavior, maybe I can just ask him about his day and totally kind of just get him off track a little bit so that we can avoid aggression and therefore physical restraints. We know that in our BIPs, because we have these trainings, there's a whole list of tools we can use, and specifically antecedent behavior strategies that we can use that are typically work for those kids. So things like priming can decrease the chances of, a problem behavior. Providing choices. What else? Pre-MAC principle. Oh, I freaking love the pre-MAC principle, right? Where it's first this, then this, or the grandma principle, as sometimes they call it. First do your chores, then you get the cookie. So different strategies like that are all written out in these kids' BIPs that will help prevent the need for restrictive procedures. So that's all that I'm writing right here. Again, the compliance code is really directed to the behavior analysts and how can we program for the least restrictive procedures throughout their experience with ABA, but you as an RBT, you are required to use all of these non-restrictive, least restrictive tools in BIPs and safety care training, etc., before you start moving in and being restrictive and, maybe turning to those physical restraints. I really liked this one. So this one's promoting an ethical culture. And then, we'll talk about ethical violations by others. But I really loved this because I think UTBS does a really good job of making it so that it's not cool to be unethical, and that it is cool and it is reinforced. And we applaud you and we cheer you on and we give you your accolades when you are treating our clients with respect and dignity and love, and you're so careful with them, So I think that UTBS does a really good job of promoting an ethical environment. So not only is it my job to be ethical in my sessions, but it's also my responsibility to promote it. So if I'm seeing things that are unethical, can I talk to somebody about it? Can I coach somebody on it? And then if I am seeing ethical behavior, am I reinforcing it? Am I applauding it? Am I praising it? Am I giving you enough attention for your ethical behavior that I'm going to start seeing it more? And then maybe the people around us and the newer employees will come in and see that that kind of behavior is being reinforced. And so that will automatically just become part of our environment. And that's what all of our staff will be expected to behave like. As I've mentioned before, if you do see something happening that you think might be unethical, bring it up. Bring it up. because it is all about our client. It is not about protecting that the RBT that maybe is being unethical. It is not about protecting that behavior analyst that might be unethical. It is about protecting our client. So if you think that something's happening, bring it up. Bring it up to a clinician, a group lead, a clinical director, in our case, Debbie Chelsea, because as I've reemphasized, our responsibility is to the client. Okay, so this is our next section. And this is kind of our responsibility to the BACB. The list is a lot longer for behavior analysts, as it should be. But I did want to point out some important parts that for you as an RBT. So when you are signing up to take your test, when you are doing your competency with typically BACB, but with a supervisor or a BCBA, you have an account. You have you've set up an account with your email and a password with the BACB, and you've been given a number. I have a number. If you want it, you can have it. I don't care. And with that number comes responsibilities. So as an RBT, this means keeping all of your information up to date. So for example, is this an accurate email to contact you on? Are you currently living in the state of Utah? Are you currently working as an RBT? Is your last name changed in your BACB account after you've been married? I just now changed my last name to Willits because when I had signed up, or when I tested, my last name was Wolf, now it is Willits. And I realized that that was not me being ethical because I had not updated the BACB. Everything has been cleared up since then. We are all good. But as soon as you recognize that you have maybe some outdated information on your BACB account, it is your responsibility to keep those updated and accurate and in a timely fashion. Right along with that, right in the second bullet point, making sure that you are up to date with your competencies. So for example, we'll have like a person-to-person competency in the clinic with the BACB, where they kind of go through these different aspects that are required of us, or tools or procedures that we'll be using as an RBT, and they're kind of quizzing you on it and doing some teaching moments there. And then you'll take your RBT exam. Every year after that RBT exam, you have to have another competency. And it is your responsibility to make sure that those don't expire. We do have amazing clinicians that kind of keep track of these due dates for you, but ultimately it is your responsibility to make sure that's being done. If you see that your RBT is about to expire, it is your responsibility to contact a supervisor and make sure that that gets scheduled for you. Our clinic is awesome at this. You guys are amazing. We know that every month our total hours are accumulated. We calculate out 5% of those hours, and 5% of those total hours that we're working as an RBT need to be supervised by a BCBA or a BCABA. Again, we are each, as an RBT, we're each assigned to a supervisor who kind of who will track for us kind of that 5% to make sure that we're staying up to date and in compliance with the code. That being said, we are really spoiled here at UTBS. Overall though, it is your responsibility. So if you find it's the last day of the month and you only have 4.5% of supervision left, it's your fault ultimately, right? Our supervisors will do anything and everything to make sure that everybody is up to date and has 5%, right? But if for some reason something falls through the crack, it is your fault. So it's the reason I put that in here is we should also be keeping track of our supervision hours, so that let's say it's the last week of the month and you notice, oh crap, I only have 4.5%. Let me just text the clinicians and double check that I'm scheduled for that last 0.5% so that I have 5% supervision for that month. Again, you contact the clinicians, they will get it scheduled for you because they truly, you are a priority for them. So they'll get that scheduled, no problem. Lastly, the code says that we are ethically responsible to be familiar with this code. The code is freaking long. In fact, I'm going to show you really fast how long it is. I have it pulled up here. So you saw all these numbers in the PowerPoint. Each one has so many different, and then each specific code, for example, accepting clients 2.01 or 2.02 responsibility, is then broken down into sections as well. It's a very in-depth code that we live by, and here it breaks it down for you. So you can see that in 1.02, it's broken up into 2 pieces. Some like integrity was broken down into 5. Everything is broken down and made so clear to you. It is a behavior analyst's job to make sure that they've got all of this down under their belt so that we can remain compliant to the code and making sure that, you know, we're keeping our clients safe. In regards to the things that I've told you, it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to make sure that you are using least restrictive procedures. It is your responsibility to stay on top of your supervision and to make sure that your BACB account is up to date. It is your responsibility to make sure that you are giving it your best in your sessions. And that if you are unable to, for some reason, give your best, that you are talking to a supervisor about it so that we can help you out and make sure that there are environmental changes put in place for you so that we can help you be a better RBT and live a better, healthier life. You are also our priority. As a behavior analyst, you are also a client, which means I'm also looking after you. So if there is something wrong, if you do have any questions, you need to come to a clinician because we want to help you. Just like we want to help our clients, we want to help you and we need to help you. So yeah, we are expecting you to be familiar with the specific aspects in the code, primarily the ones that we've discussed in this presentation. If you do have any questions, ask, period. If there's something going on with an RBT, with a clinician, whatever, that you feel a little iffy on, ask. Let's get it cleared up. The clinicians are familiar with this code, so if you ask them, they will be able to say, no, that's not ethical, or yes, that's just fine, or how can we change it to make it feel better, or is there a rationale I can give you to make you feel better about this procedure, etc. Like I said down here at the bottom, we will all support each other in creating and maintaining and promoting an ethical environment. Like I've said, our primary responsibility is clients, but we will also be taking care of you as an RBT. And I will be taken care of as an RBT. This is one of those things where, you know, you hear that saying, ignorance is bliss. If you are, with these very few points that we've covered in this presentation, I'm going to go ahead and say that ignorance is not bliss, okay? If we are jumping into physical restraints right away, you're going to be held accountable for that. If you are offering babysitting services or entering into a relationship with either a client or a higher up, you are responsible for the consequences of that. Why? Because it will come back and be harmful to the client. And that's something that we have to correct and protect above all else. So that is all I've got for our training. If you do have any questions, please send me an email. I will be here. If you have any questions that maybe you don't want to ask me about, you can go and find this compliance code by Googling BACB compliance code or BACB ethics code, or you can type in professional and ethical compliance code for behavior analysts. That's totally up to you. So if maybe you don't feel comfortable asking a higher up or talking about it, go ahead and go to this code and say, okay, just to clarify, to see if what am I, I can't talk, to make sure if I see something that might be unethical, I can always go back here and be like, okay, that is definitely in the ethics code, that is definitely wrong, I can definitely take this to the clinical director, right? So if you have any questions, ask a clinician, ask the clinical director, Google BACB compliance code, it will pop up on the website, or you can just email me, that's fine too. So, thank you so much.